In this episode, we have a Christmas mass of tidying to do in expectation of our new arrival. Jane starts her largest project yet, and I run into difficulty trying to restore an old well. But first, I've just come down to have my shower, my lovely morning shower. Outside, it's a frosty day. It's very cold in the chateau, and there's no hot water. There's a problem. So no shower for me this morning, or Jane, until I work out what's gone wrong. Boo! So we've come home with another car full of tiles for the barn roof. Now there's a little bit of a question mark over these tiles because we don't know that they're exactly the right kind. They're very similar, with a similar size, but we don't know if they're exactly the right size, in which case, if they don't fit, we might have a car full of useless tiles. But until we try, we won't know. Well, the most frustrating thing that could have happened has happened. That car full of tiles, they don't work with the roof tiles that we've got. They're so close. It's 5 millimeters away from fitting. But that would accrue. It's not like you could just cut a little notch to make them fit. That would accrue and then they just end up being completely mismatched. Ugh. I don't think I'm going to be able to, unless I can think of something magical, but I've got no ideas at the minute. I think it was a wasted journey, and now we've got 60 odd tiles that we don't really have any use for. The camera crew from Chateau DIY were due to arrive soon, and we had a lot of clearing up in the barn to do before their arrival. As we've agreed to buy Dizzy the Connemara, we had to get his stable bay cleared and finished. Getting the fence post holes dug was so tedious and difficult I spread the work over a couple of days.
So this is the moss and the bits of old broken tile that come off the roof, and a roofer guy who came to chat to us said that the moss makes a really good growing medium. So rather than just getting rid of it, we're going to put it in a pile and use it to make raised beds next year.
The fence panels and wire fencing that we'd moved from the first stable was now in the way again and needed to be moved. They in turn were sitting on a raised pile of gravel, which would have to be shoveled up and taken away. How's it going?
Well, depends whether it has to be perfect or not. You can get them reasonably well tied in, and I'm hoping once the bedding's on that they'll be okay. But they're not perfect. We've got stony ground, gravelly ground, and we've tried clearing the stones, but this is a really gravelly area. Bit of a pain because we've done them all, we got them in place, and then we moved them onto there, and then we needed to get new ones and do another bay. So we've actually done this already, so doing it again is a bit annoying, however.
Okay, it's possible that all may not be lost. Ugh. So these 4 tiles were all made at the same tilery a gazillion years ago. And and that one are the ones we got yesterday, and these ones are ones that we already had, which are the ones that fit on the barn roof and the orangery roof, and they seem to go together really well. They're named slightly differently, but they're extremely similar. The difference is one has a more sloping edge than the other. One's almost perfectly vertical down, and this one's slightly curved. So they're not identical, but they do seem to go together, and I don't mind them not being perfectly identical as long as they do their job. Oh, so fingers crossed we've got a load of tiles that we can use and aren't just going to have to store until we can give them away to somebody else. Ooh. Welcome to Jane's Find of the Day with Jane.
Hello and welcome to this week's Find of the Day at Chateau. Today I'm going to be talking about this statue. My daughter Anna did Classics A-level, which is what people do when they're 18 in the UK. It's one of her A-levels. So I consulted her to get some of her information, her ideas, and asked her whether she thought it was Greek or Roman. And she explained that a lot of art carried out by the Romans was influenced very heavily by Greek art anyway, so it can be quite hard to tell who actually created it, whether it was in the Greek period or the Roman period. And I've also found out that the Romans invaded and effectively took over Greece at some point, so therefore there was a lot of interplay between the Greeks and the Romans, and there were Greek artists working during the time that we would consider the Roman period. She also said she thought it looked like it was influenced from the Archaic period, which, as I understand it, is the earliest period of Greek art, even before what we think of as the classical period. And I thought that was quite interesting because her draperies are quite simple. Her face is actually quite finely drawn, but you know, if you look at her hair and the drapes, she's not the most finely delineated, finely honed, lifelike figure. And I understand that the Archaic period, the figures tend to be a bit stilted, a bit erect, and I think that would fit. So if this was original, then she would have been made in about 500 BC, something like that. She depicts Demeter, who is the goddess of the harvest and grain, and also good health. So that's perfect for this region. You can see the previous owners have put grapes and things around her to allude to fertility and all that sort of thing. She's made of terracotta, which is not at all outlandish. I mean, obviously we tend to think of statues being made of marble and that sort of thing, but there were plenty of terracotta statues. So this is almost certainly a reproduction, of course. I very much doubt that this is 2,500 years old, but it depicts something that was 2,500 years old probably, which is really lovely. Anna pretty much identified her as Demeter, also known as Ceres by the Romans, by her headdress, and she said something about the posture as well. I can't quite remember what that was, but she's got what you could call a diadem, you might call it a hat, or a crown, but she's wearing something on her head, headdress, with material that hangs down. And yeah, something about her must have made Anna think of one that looks like her. I've not found an image that is identical to that. I think, you know, if you go looking at images, you get a wide variety of statuary, but I think we're pretty close on that, because I have seen some other depictions of Demeter, and yes, with the diadem, although there are sometimes they have other things, like she's holding a sheaf of wheat and various other things. But yeah, I think that's probably who she is. And I wasn't sure when we first moved in how much I liked her, but now I do. I really like her. I don't think we need so much gold around her. But there's this alcove. I don't know if this was originally for a little religious shrine. Not sure what it was for, but I think she, as you know, one of the ancient Greek goddesses, sister of Zeus, I think is rather lovely.
Ho, ho, ho! It's Christmas here at the Chateau. Well, Christmas has come a little bit early this year because for the last 2 days we have had a camera crew from Channel 4's Chateau DIY filming us for a Christmas special episode. And so now they've gone, we're getting back down to all the workload that we have planned. And we're going to be busy in the run up to Christmas because there's a lot of things that we want to get done. One of which is starting the large garden project. And I will let Jane explain more about that because that's her baby. Our property has a well. And the well has water in it. The well had water in it all through the year. I know some people's wells in the heat of the summer here, they can dry up. But ours had water in it. So that is going to be really important for us going forward because water is quite expensive. So one of my projects that I'm going to be trying today is to restore the well because it's in a bit of a state, and I'll show you more when I get to it, but it needs a bit of work to try and get it back up and running and functional as a well. But hopefully I'll be able to get that sorted and it will look very pretty when it's done, hopefully.
So it's the end of November nearly, and I am planning a bit of a formal garden to be visible from what we think of as the main facade of the chateau, even though technically it's the back. And the plan is, it's based on a square, which will start by being 8 metres by 8 metres, with a circle in the middle which will be paved, and there will probably be cross paths as well. So it's basically a classic, simple formal garden, designed, created by the planting and the paths basically. And then probably there'll be some willow fencing around the outsides just to give a little bit of shelter, because I've got some tall roses going in, roses on long stems that have been grafted on, so they'll need a bit of protection. But yeah, very excited. I've got all the plants coming next week, I think, so left it a little bit late to be doing this. Doing the circle isn't going to happen rapidly, but as long as I've cleared enough of the planting area that I can put the plants in, or at least the ones that are most critical to go in, the ones I've got some bare roots coming. So that's where the pressure's going to be on, to get the bare root plants into the ground.
This is our little well, and it's open topped at the minute, and you can see the water down there slowly filling up with leaves, which we don't really want it to fill up with leaves. And this has been uncovered with no lid on it for an unknown amount of years. The lid, there's half of it, and Bunty, has rotted away, but on top of the lid used to stand this fantastic water pump. Really cool. So my plan for the day is to recreate this lid using some wood that I've got spare in the barn, put the new lid on here and see if I can get the pump working. And if I can get the pump working, then we have free water that we can use for watering the garden, albeit by pumping a handle to fill a bucket. Oh, there's something down there. Something living down there. So this well is going to need a little bit of work to bring it back to life. I'm going to try and make the wooden lid for it today, in which case I might be able to get the pump fixed on top of it, which will be amazing. And then I've also noticed that around the base here has been mortared up, and that's broken and fallen away. So that will need repairing at some point. Okay, I've got my 4 boards, which I will be able to screw together, and that will be the lid once I've cut it all out. So now I'll get the jigsaw. I'm not trying for perfection. I just want something rustic, something that'll hold together, and something that'll look nice with that water pump attached to the top of it. And this should do perfectly. This hopefully is my well cover, and I've only screwed together 3 of the pieces because there is a chance that I'll still want to be able to access the inspect the well for whatever reason, and so I'm not going to screw it all together, because once the water pump is attached to this, it's going to be really quite heavy, and I'm not going to want to move it very often. So now I think it's time to put it on and see if it fits. I think we'll want it this way round. Just the corner is in the way. Well, since I'm at it, I thought I would have a go at routing the edge to make it a little bit nicer and a little bit smoother, so it's not just so rough. The well now has a lid. Well, I never. So that should at the very least stop any more detritus leaves and twigs and whatever else falling into the well. And now the exciting bit, or the hard bit. I've got to see if I can get this pump back into working order.
So I've put a few more stakes in. This roughly marks the circle that's going to be paved in the middle, and there are going to be paths, so the pink posts mark the paths going in and out, so there's a crisscross of paths as well. And then inside this perimeter is the planting area, and there are going to be 4 of those. So I was just getting a feel, I'm starting to mentally go through what plants I've ordered and where I want to put them. And obviously each sector is going to be done identically. So I've got 4 standard roses. So for each sector, I've got a standard rose which has got 3 small rose bushes grafted onto it. And I've grown them before, and if you protect them, they're absolutely spectacular. They need to be staked because they get really heavy and absolutely covered in flowers. But yeah, so we'll need a bit of protection in terms of fencing, and also they have to be staked really well. But anyway, I've got 1 for each sector. Pale cream colour. So all the roses I've bought are David Austin roses. He's an English grower, and I've grown his roses before, and they smell gorgeous. Many of them are repeat flowering, and the roses are just exquisite, bursting with petals, and I absolutely love them. So I've gone out of my way to buy David Austin roses. Anyway, so I know the varieties that I want, what they're going to look like. So I've got these 4 standard roses in the sectors, and then I've got 2 other rose bushes for each sector, which are different from each other, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And I'm sure in time I'll probably buy more roses because I absolutely love roses. But anyway, to start with, I've got 2 rose bushes on the ground, so normally, not high ones, normally planted for each sector. And then I've got salvias. I'm just thinking I'm going to have them round the circle. And then I've got some geraniums, which I'm going to have around the edge where it's a bit more shady, because that's where the fencing is going to be. And then I've got bulbs. I've got some bulbs to put in. I've got some gorgeous tulips and things to go in as well. So yeah, very exciting.
at that. I think I need to get this back to the barn to give it a good cleaning up. Don't know if I can lift it all the way. I might get the wheelbarrow. I've put the end of the pump's hose into a bucket of water and tried the pump, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything. It's just sort of making a noise. So what I'll have to do is take the pump apart. I don't know if you can hear that beautiful, beautiful sound. Stop now. This end of the pump is absolutely filled. Hardly surprised it's not working. So this side is very rusty, and it sort of looks like there's a seal here that's effectively crumbling away, so that'll need to be replaced somehow. Similarly, this side, it's very mucky. Could do with a good clean up, and I'll squirt the hose inside it just to get rid of the filth. But it looks like I'm not going to be able to get this working today, sadly. Well, this is as far as I've managed to get today. I've got the lid on, which is the most important thing really, because that'll stop all of the leaves falling inside. And I've taken apart the pump. One thing I would like to know, and I don't know yet, is how deep is my well? So I think tomorrow I'm going to get some string and a weight, and I'm going to drop it down, and we'll just see how far it goes before it reaches the bottom. The moment that perhaps none of you have been waiting for.
So if I was to try to work out what she's worth, I wouldn't know where to start. I think if she was original, she'd be in a museum. This is a reproduction of some kind. I don't know when it was done. Being terracotta, she can't go out in the rain, so I guess she was always intended to be as part of a little internal shrine inside a house. And I've seen statues like this priced at anywhere between $100 and $2,000, and I don't know what would drive that. I think probably if this has been mass produced, then she'd be at the sort of $100 end. If she's rare, then she'd be at the higher end, and I really don't know. But I don't think she's going anywhere. I think this is really an extraordinary thing to have in your home. She fits right there on the stairs of the chateau going up. She's looking down on us and inspiring us to have good harvests and prosperity. So she's not going anywhere. Totally unexpectedly, all my bare root roses have arrived. I wasn't expecting them until tomorrow at the earliest, but they're here now. And whilst you can heal in roses and you can keep them in a dark place before planting them, some of them look like they're sprouting. And we've got temperatures during the day of up to 18 degrees this week. So I don't think I can hang around. I think I just need to get them planted. So the race is on. I'm going to soak them in buckets
and get the planting holes ready as soon as I possibly can. Well, I've just unwrapped one of these, and it's not what I would call bare root. It's got compost around it. So I think I'm going to wrap them up again, put them in the bucket anyway, and allow some of the water to trickle through, because I'm just thinking I don't necessarily want to wash off any of the compost that's there or in any way expose the roots to being interfered with. So I don't know if this is the right thing, but I imagine water will seep through. Plus they currently are moist and encased, and they've only been travelling for 24 hours. So I'll pop them in the bucket of water, still wrapped, and then I will plant them. I think you can see what I mean when I say that these roses are sprouting. They've got little buds, look. So I'm lucky that I'm here to receive them, and I'm going to get them in the ground as soon as I can. These two are ones I've not grown before. They're not David Austin roses, but they are English roses, and they are named after Knights of the Round Table and things like that, and they looked really pretty in the catalogue, so they will be new. They're not going in the formal border because they're sort of odd ones out, but I thought I'd try them somewhere. So that's a bit more of a puzzle as to where I'm going to put them, because I haven't got really planned where they're going at all. However, this one is a climbing rose, and I do know where that's going to go. It's going to go in a pot, but yeah, a really big pot, so I know where that one's going. These two, I'm not so sure. Help!
I've decided that I'd like to give the hand pump a proper restoration, and so I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to try and locate or recreate the seals which will enable the pump to work. So first of all, I've got to get all of this de-rusted and cleaned up properly, and then traditionally they would have had leather seals. So I'm going to see what I can find online. If not, I'll try and recreate them myself. So this will be put away for a little while until I have time to give it some proper work. But I will now go and try and plumb the depths of the well. Found an old bit of metal that I can use as a weight, so I can work out how deep this well is. There's the creature again. The weight has reached the water, so I'm just going to mark my string, my bit of electric fence, at the point at the top of the well, so then I can subtract that from the amount of water that's in there. And that's our depth. So the scores are in. I've plumbed the depths of my well, and I have an answer. The water is about 2 meters below the level of the lip of the well, and the water depth is about another 2 meters. The question will be is how quickly the well refills when you start to use it, and that's a big unknown. So I don't know how much we'll be able to pump out at any one time without having to wait for it to refill. At some point I'll go back in the chateau and start work, but while the weather's nice, we keep being drawn outside, and what a lovely afternoon it is, about 20 degrees. See you next time. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing, and checking out some of our other videos.